Let me just say right now, are you serious? Because this is very serious. There's nothing else you can put on this. It is very serious. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. It seems like maybe we read this in Revelation, but do we understand just how close we are to seeing it? And they're not necessarily four men or even four nations, but they're four events. But it seems like we're witnessing a collaboration, a axis of evil from the four corners of the earth that the Bible talks about, seemingly pulling together for a common cause. What does it all mean? And just who all's involved? One thing's for sure, we're going to find out. Right now, I want to say something to you right now. No. Just call Gamal, y'all. Just call Gamal, y'all. Micro Daily. Get your Micro Daily. I do it every day. You can have one, you can have two, but get the capsules and just be encouraged. You see, Micro Daily was developed by scientists of NASA and others as a dietary supplement. But boy, it's more than just that. It really helps you, it helps me anyway, with daily thinking, critical thinking, be a little more sharper, okay? After having a stroke, I needed a little extra help maybe in reconnecting those brain waves. Well, it's also, this is way more than that. Call Gamal, y'all, 352-492-9333, because it's also an anti-inflammation response, immune system support, DNA integrity and health, 5G protection. I love that. I love that. If you're around computers all day and you're working in the studios or whatever, but if you're just out inside walking around all these 5G towers and you got your cell phone, 5G protection, EMF radiation defense. You're going to need that. Anti-aging and increased energy. Okay? But wow, EMF radiation defense. You really need it. It's Micro Daily. Just go pick up the phone right now. Call Gamal, you all. Just call Gamal, you all. 352-492-9333. Call him right now. That's 352-492-9333. Just call Gamal. Y'all, call Gamal. And tell him Pastor Paul Begley said to call that you need your Micro Daily. The red bottle. Well, he's even got a green bottle. You get that one. But Micro Daily. Tell him you need the Micro Daily, okay? And he'll give you a great, great deal. He's a pharmacist. He's a good friend of mine. All right. Now, here's the deal. Everybody's been talking a lot about, Vladimir Putin and this war in Ukraine. I went back into the archives, and I found an article that was written on January 24th, 2019, called Putin and the Apocalypse. Putin and the Apocalypse, okay? And there was a lot in here that was interesting, but the article was saying Putin is actually going to be the guy who tries to stop the New World Order, stop the apocalypse. Now, this was written on January 24th, 2019, by projectsyndicate.org. This is a year before the pandemic. So here you go. Putin has spoken about a nuclear apocalypse. This is a year before the pandemic. This is 2 years before the invasion. Putin has spoken about a nuclear apocalypse more than any Western leader. It has over the last decade, causing some to speculate that he may be threatening NATO and the United States. But Putin has blamed the risk of a catastrophic outcome on the West, framing Russia's hypothetical use of nuclear weapons as revenge or retaliation. Last March, which would have been March of 2018, in a presidential address to the Federal Assembly, Putin said those who are in the past 15 years have tried to accelerate an arms race and seek unilateral advantage against Russia and introduce illegal restrictions and sanctions aimed at restraining Russia's development, including, that is, its military. all of them, Putin declared, should stop rocking the boat. We are all in, and which is called we're all here on the earth. Now, there were several videos made, different things were proclaimed, where Putin was saying, you guys you guys are continually pushing and shoving and squeezing me. Now, President Trump was the president at this time that this article was written, and Putin gave this address. This is January of 2019. Now, while this was going on, the church of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill, predicted a book of Revelation-style reckoning was coming. He said this in 2017. He declared, one must be blind not to see the approach of the terrible moments in history that are about to happen, which was prophesied by the apostle and the evangelist John the theologian, and he spoke about it in the book of Revelation. More recently, he's repeated his belief that doomsday is near. Now, this would be the Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill. And remember, Patriarch Kirill of the Russian Orthodox, he's part of the split from the Vatican, the East and West. And when they split 1,000 years ago in the year 1054 AD, now he's saying that you'd be blind if you can't see that doomsday is near. Crucially, the person who brings on the apocalypse will be God himself, he said. That is why many believe that the terrible moments in history should be welcomed. For example, according to the archpriest and chaplain, the former spokesperson for the Russian Orthodox Church, God sanctions the annihilation of the masses in order to instruct society. This is what he said. Now, government officials, journalists, and intellectuals have also alluded to the apocalypse. For example, chair of the Constitutional Court, Valerie Zorkin, has argued that the end of the world is already upon us and that the mystery of the lawlessness is already at work. She's quoting literally 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 when it says the mystery of iniquity doth already work. And then Dmitry Kiziv, the voice of the Kremlin, has claimed that Russia can reduce the U.S. to radioactive ashes. Now, while getting the West's attention may please Putin, apocalyptic rhetoric in Russia is closely related to the positioning Putin has as a kind of messiah there, and is hardly the only public figure happy to reinforce his portrayal. In 2007, there was a novel called The Apocalypse of Vladimir. It was a television journalist, Vladimir Solovov, called Putin the Tsar and the Prophet, whose mission is to prepare Russia for the Last Judgment. Now, Vladimir the Apostle, the book's first-person narrator, destroys thousands of sinners, including the entire cities, by burning them alive in this book. Telling Vladimir the Apostle reflects that the sinners who are left with no time to repent just croaked. For Solovov, preparing for the long-awaited bright day of the Last Judgment requires Russia to introduce its anti-democratic monarchy in which Putin would become the Tsar. Now, this is quite interesting because this is one of the top leaders of the church making this proclamation. So basically putting Vladimir Putin on the red horseman, making him basically the red horseman of the apocalypse. And this is being proclaimed by the number 2 guy of the Russian Orthodox Church. But not because he's the red horseman to bring about the apocalypse, but he is the guy who's going to help stop the New World Order, or the guy who would stop the Antichrist. But he would have to do it with the weapons of war. Now, the view aligns that with other rank-and-file Orthodox believers. One sect followers believe that Putin is the reincarnation of the early Christian missionary, the Apostle Paul. The sect's founder calls herself Mother Fontina, trusts that God has appointed Putin to Russia to prepare him for the coming of Jesus Christ because he has the spirit of czar in him. Alexander Dugin, the leader of the Eurasia movement, arguably said the Kremlin's chief ideologist calls Putin Kechin. That means, as an Orthodox leader, that means the preventer of the kingdom of the Antichrist. Kechin. That is what he says Putin is, the preventer of the Antichrist, which he defines as a combination of Western globalization and post-liberalism and post-industrial society. Yet far from wanting to avert the apocalypse, Dugin wants the Eurasian movement to help bring it about. In other words, a combination between Russia and China, a bridge, and let it be a Eurasian movement between these two men, Vladimir Putin and President Xi, that these two men can hold off the apocalypse. They can prevent the rise of the globalist, of the New World Order, and that they are the ones that can bring this contemporary world, like the Middle Ages, is longing for the apocalypse, because the world without the apocalypse is boring beyond belief. So in recent months, popular support for Putin had gone up. This was in 2019. He had an overall approval rating in Russia of 76%. So now let's fast forward. This is an interesting, very interesting article from 2019. And this is what it's saying. The apocalypse is coming because it's the only way to stop the New World Order. And that Vladimir Putin is the Kechin, the one who prevents the Antichrist. But then in the same article, they recognize that the only way that there will be peace, the only way the world can be prepared for Jesus Christ, is if Russia and China unite in this plan to stop the globalist. Now, this is very interesting, because communism is the last thing on earth that you think is going to be a friend of Jesus Christ. If you think President Xi and China are going to bring about peace and tranquility and bring about the glorious return of Jesus Christ as far as ushering in some kind of peace, you're crazy. China is a communistic ideology that is antichrist to the core. This is why they bulldoze churches, murder Christians, murder the Uyghurs, murder anyone and everyone that gets in their way from their ultimate goal. Russia right now is looking for a friend. This is why Vladimir Putin went to the Olympics back in 2022, just before his invasion of Ukraine. He went to the Chinese Olympics and he met with President Xi, and they build a bridge and an understanding that if Russia makes an invasion into Ukraine, China said, go ahead and do it. We bless you. It belongs to you. Go take it. And then China said to Russia, and if we go and take Taiwan, that belongs to us. And Putin said, go ahead. I bless you. It's yours. Go take it. So right there, these guys formed a pact. A year's gone by, and now where is President Xi this morning? He is sitting in the Kremlin right now as I'm talking to you. He is in the Kremlin for the second day of a 3-day journey in which he is discussing military options, economic support, and a stronger collaboration between China and Russia. Meanwhile, while that's going on, guys, these guys are dead serious about what they're trying to accomplish. We don't know where Joe Biden is. The Americans' leadership right now is absent from the world stage. What I do know is that we have a situation where Biden is more interested in a two-state solution in Israel, in splitting the land of Israel, Matter of fact, it just came out that he wants to, in the last few days, that he has, we found out that he sent Jake Sullivan, who's the National Security Advisor, sent him to Israel a few weeks ago. Matter of fact, it was back when I was there. And Sullivan met with the Egyptians, and then he went and met in Ramallah with Mahmoud Abbas, and then he met with the Netanyahu. But what he told Abbas was he brought a large check. Here's some financial aid for the Palestinian people. And he also said, what I'd like to do is, we would like to do this. The Americans, Joe Biden would like to train a 5,000-man army that would fight or be trained in the nation of Jordan. 5,000 Palestinians trained, military trained in the nation of Jordan, and then brought to the West Bank and put in charge of their own security there, not the IDF. In other words, tell the Israeli Defense Forces to leave the area, that the West Bank belongs to the Palestinians, and they will manage their own affairs, and they will keep the security on behalf of Israel, by the way, that they would make sure that no terrorist would rise. Can you imagine this? 5,000 trained Palestinians with guns roaming around Judea and Samaria. This is nothing more than an attempt by President Biden to part the land by force. Also, it would not just be the 5,000 Arabs troops that would be in Judea and Samaria or the West Bank, but there would be U.S. troops would be helping them, along with some more foreign troops from the UN. Listen to what I'm saying. So this is exactly what Samantha Powell, before she was ever the United Nations ambassador to the UN, she was asked a question on the Dick Cavett show in 2002. Samantha Powers was her name. He said, if you was ever the UN ambassador, what would you do to solve the Israeli-Palestinian controversy? She said, I would bring in U.S. troops and foreign troops from the United Nations and build a buffer zone between the West Bank and the rest of Israel, and I would split by force, split those and make a two-state solution. That would be my recommendation to the president. Well, guess what? President Biden and President Obama won the election in 2008. He selected Samantha Power to be his UN ambassador, the very job, and she submitted that very plan to Obama. Now, President Obama could not pull it off in his 8 years there, but 8 years of Obama pass, 4 years of Trump pass. Trump makes strong moves to support Israel and move the embassy to Jerusalem and do all these other things. And then Biden gets in, and Biden's been in for 2 years, and he's already, he just this week is submitting this plan that this is what he wants to do. And he was on the phone this week for 45 minutes talking to Benjamin Netanyahu about how to bring about a two-state solution. Netanyahu was pushing back big time, not wanting this plan. This plan has been floated. This plan to train 5,000 Palestinians in the nation of Jordan and then to bring them in to the West Bank along with U.S. troops and United Nations troops to divide the land of Israel. The Bible says in the book of Joel, the Lord will end up bringing the whole world, all the nations of the world, down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. And he will plead with the world for his people. God will plead with them. Don't try to part the land. Don't do this, or I will bring judgment upon the world. Could have just said, I will bring the apocalypse. So look what's setting up. You have Putin, you have Russia, you have China, you have Iran, who hates Israel and wants to capture the city of Jerusalem by force, through bombing, through chaos, to set up a kingdom. Russia wants to be the leader of the New World Order. China wants to certainly be the leader of the New World Order. And Joe Biden and the globalists want to be the leaders of the New World Order. You have 4 different groups, and then throw in Kim Jong-un just for good measure, because he's the little irritant, but he's part of the axis of evil. So if you have Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, they collectively are working together to try to bring about the apocalypse and a new world order. At the same time, Biden and the globalists are trying to do the exact same thing from a different perspective. What's this mean? It's an absolute recipe for prophecy in these last days. We're in the end times. We have come to the point where there is no turning back. And you see that the Gog and Magog war may be just around the corner. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are certainly galloping. The white horse is the New World Order, the beast kingdom trying to establish itself, to go around with a bow and an arrow to conquer, and with its bow to conquer. The red horse with the weapons of warfare. The black horse of the economy, and the pale horse of pandemics, plagues, and diseases, and death. All of these seemingly in a combination, an axis of evil being developed to bring about a new world order, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And what is the prize of all of it to get this Antichrist in play? The city of Jerusalem, God's prophetic timepiece. Guys, this is why you don't want to miss out on this Friday night's conference we're going to have, our webinar called Cataclysmic Apocalypse. It is unbelievable what we're going to discuss. Now, I'm going to be talking about the Cataclysmic Apocalypse of the 4 horsemen. That'll be my presentation in this, the Beast Kingdom Rising. But I already interviewed Mark Wages, who was phenomenal in his presentation of what's happening on the sun and how that the binary system, Planet X, the sun is, and he shows you charts and graphs. He's incredible. Wages World comes to this conference. First time we've ever interviewed him. He was incredible. And then I interviewed Stan Deyo. He blew my mind. Stan Deyo left me in awe. He blew my mind. I don't even know where to start. First, he shares a dream he had in 1997, a documented dream of a massive volcanic eruption that destroys New Zealand. And he's seen it so vivid that he actually saw the certain buildings. So he went to New Zealand, and the buildings he saw were there, identical. He even went in and talked to people. And he said, do you realize there's a volcano underneath you? And they said, well, we know that there's something that's not right, because there's constantly getting tremors. But then they said, but look outside, and they showed him outside where steam is coming up from the ground. Steam, right in the grass, right in the yards, right in the street. Steam. He said, you realize that's a volcano under you. And I've had a dream, and this thing is going to blow. I just want to, he tells it so much better. Look, I want you to see, he uses Google Maps, he shows you the exact location, shows you the places, takes you into the streets, shows you where it's going to happen. I want you to, that's just one thing he brings up. He talks about why these cataclysmic apocalypse events are going to come all over the world. And he does not see a bright future for America. So I need you to be sure you're watching this webinar. Get your tickets today. We only got 3 days left. It starts 6 o'clock Friday night. Get your tickets now so that we'll have you all set up in the system. And right at 6 o'clock on Friday night, we will release the emails with your link. Let's get it done now. Let's not wait till the 11th hour. Let's do it now. Many of you need to go ahead and get your tickets today. Get it now. And oh, by the way, today I'm getting ready to interview Stephen Ben-Danoon and Marshall Masters. And then I'm also going to do my own presentation for this unbelievable. And Marshall Masters is going to show you how he has proof that the U.S. Geological Survey is not showing us the correct numbers on these earthquakes. He's going to show you and then why that's important. And then it's going to blow your mind. Stephen Ben-Danoon has recently had meetings in Washington with people talking about the underground locations and cities and the preparation that they all know is coming. The cataclysmic apocalypse and the incoming asteroids and what's taking place because of Planet X. Marshall Masters also reveals Planet X. Stan Deyo, in this interview I just did with him, revealed big time what's happening with Planet X in the binary system and how it's affecting the Earth and the sun and everything else. And they had all kinds of graphs and shows of stuff. It's incredible. And then I'm going to interview Mike around the world, and Mike is going to talk about the stone steps. It's time. You want to know about it? It's coming. But he's also going to show us information never seen before and why we are coming so close now to the cataclysmic apocalypse. It could be called the day of the Lord. It may be the rapture just before it happens. Remember, we Christians, we don't experience the wrath of God. We may be here for some of the persecution. We are, as a matter of fact. We know we're here for some of the persecution, some of the hatred against us. Some of us will be in prison. Some even put to death. We know that's coming. We can read that right in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. Book of Revelation. Daniel tells us that the beast is going to make war with the saints and overcome them. He tells us this in Daniel. We're told this again in the book of Revelation. We know the city of Jerusalem gets attacked. It looks like it's almost going to be taken over. But the Lord will come back and stand on the Mount of Olives and stop the enemies that are trying to destroy or split the land. We have a president right now who's talking about splitting the land. Every time he opens his mouth about Israel, it's about two-state solution. And all of his little minions are singing the same song. It's all because we're coming to the end. Please do not miss this webinar. It is prophecy. I'm on today on the Jim Bakker show. If you haven't had a chance, if you check your television listings, today and tomorrow. Today and tomorrow, I'm a guest on the Jim Bakker show. You can really get some great information there. That was two great shows. Yeah, we're running out of time. Are you saved? Are you saved? It's almost over. It really is. It's almost over. Wow. I don't even know what I'm doing. It's interesting. You know, there's too many buttons and cords and technology and stuff I got to deal with. That's why you better call Gamal, y'all, okay? And keep yourself on track so that you don't get messed up like me. It's keeping me focused. Little PBT. We're running out of time. Everybody hit the easy button. Get your ticket. Go to my website and get Cataclysmic Apocalypse. Do it now.
God, I'm so scared for this crooked generation. You even find faith in the earth when you bring down revelation. Forgive us now the sins of our youth, worshiping the idols that knew everything but the truth. Teach us how to uncorrupt our lives. Show us now while we still have the time. We need you.
Yeshua.
Holy, holy, hallelujah. We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We abandon everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the street.
Get this DVD
How much
set.
will we see?
Get it now.
Before the fire falls, Lord, could this really be the last altar call? We need your blood over the doorposts of our hearts.
Anoint us with your fiery love as the praise and worship starts.
We need you, Yeshua.
Holy, holy, hallelujah. Do it now.
We need you, Yeshua. Holy, holy, hallelujah. We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the streets. Oh, we abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the streets. We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the street. We abandoned everything to follow you, our King. We throw our gold and silver in the street.
I'll be back with more on the coming apocalypse.